My father shared a secret with me that ruined my entire life. My father told me this story over drinks the other night. He'd gotten a little tipsy and ended up telling me something that unraveled a dark truth about my uncle. When I was 7, I remember Uncle Mark always being my favorite relative. He always invited me around to show me his airsoft gun collection, have hide-and-seek parties with my friends, and even took us to the beach. He would always come with sweets for us and acted like one of us, another child who just wanted to have fun. But then came the day when everything seemed to fall apart. Looking back, my uncle had told me we were going to go to the new amusement park that had opened up on the other side of town. I was so excited as I had been waiting for so long to have a chance to visit that place. My dad was happy and cheerful for the entire day. He was going on about how much he loved the fact his brother wanted to be in his children's life, and was excited to let me go to the new park. That was until his phone rang. I was in my room, packing my stuff, when I heard the most blood-curdling scream from my dad. He was yelling at someone on the phone, louder than I had ever. I heard him rip open our front door and slam it back shut with enough force to make the picture next to it fall off the wall. I didn't see my dad for a long while after that. He never told me why until we had this talk, but that shall be explained at the end. My mom had a lot of money saved up from a minor lotto win, so we were alright financially. She kept assuring us, "Your father is just away for a while because he was looking after you and your siblings." Uncle Mark didn't come that day. We did see him around town, but he always ran away as soon as my mom saw him waving at me. 9 months later, my father came home and I excitedly ran and hugged him. He hugged me right back, and that night we had a party to celebrate his return. A week or so later, Dad sat me down with the other children and explained that Uncle Mark wouldn't be coming around anymore. When I asked why, he just said Uncle Mark was a bad person and that if he ever tried to talk to us, we were to ignore him and come find one of them. We all agreed because my dad knew best. A year or so later, I was leaving school, and was waiting for my parents to pick me up when I saw Uncle Mark. He had a huge grin on his face and began approaching me. I was nervous to see him after what my dad had told me. He said he was here to pick me up. I told him I couldn't go with him, because my father said I wasn't allowed to speak with him. That's when Uncle Mark's tone seemed to change in an instant. He had this scary look on his face for a second, then he told me it was all good. He said he had spoken to my father about the situation, and that my father had changed his mind and asked him to pick me up from school that day. When I refused further, he grabbed my hand and began leading me towards his truck. Luckily for me, this was right as my father had arrived to pick me up from school. My dad ran up and punched Mark right in the face, blood spewing out of his mouth. I didn't see much after that except Uncle Mark running away with my dad chasing him. My dad came back after a little while, sighed and took me in for a hug. He told my mother to take me home, and that he'd see us later. He was lying, and I knew it would be a long time before I saw my father again. 5 years. 5 years my dad was gone. Sometime during this time period, my mom had admitted to us that he was in prison for protecting us. We all knew it was likely because he hurt Uncle Mark.